please call the roll.
Winters,
Here.
Benson,
Here.
Eckhart,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hamilton, here, Hannaford,
Here.
Stelling,
Here.
Wallace.
Here.
All right, item number 4 is the discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at City Council meetings will be approved by one vote of the Council. Any member of the Council desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 21st, 2017. And item B is approval of claims in the amount of $374,376.65 and payroll expenses of $261,574.30. Would there be a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Daniel Winters, second by Mary Hamilton to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Item 6 are reports from boards and officers. A is the Alva Public Library Board meeting on August 22nd, 2017. Mr. Eckhart, do you have a report for us today?
Yes, not much to report on. We had a fairly routine meeting. We did go through, they are looking at, they have made some more air conditioner replacements. They're looking at replacing some water fountains that have gotten kind of condition-wise need to be replaced. They did have a fall book sale, just ended a few days ago. I know I went there myself, and there was quite a few people there. They had a bunch of books that had been donated by the community, some that they had rotated out of the collection, etc. We did talk about the Cupcake Creations Cupcake Wars again. We talked about that a little bit last meeting, but they have about 50 participants present. They are going to restart. They're going to have a Let's Talk About It book series, several different books that different people from Northwestern and other people from the community are going to have kind of book talks about different books, all from the Gilded Age around the post-Civil War Reconstruction time period. And then they're restarting the Mommy and Me program. It's going to be rebranded Little Explorers, and they're kind of taking over that for the library. And the last thing is they're looking at, because they have a need for this, so they wanted to do this. They are reorganizing part of the auditorium to be a kind of a quiet place so kids can come and do homework and things like that, and kind of be out of the regular area of the library if they need somewhere to go to work on stuff. So.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Eckhart? All right, thank you, Chris. Item B is the Alva Hospital Authority Board meeting on August 22nd, 2017. Dr. Hanford,
We did not have a quorum, so we did not have a meeting. We'll meet tomorrow night.
Council have any questions for Dr. Hanford? Thank you, Bo. Alva Arena Authority meeting on September 14th, 2017. We do have an agenda item relevant to the Arena Authority this evening, so I've spoken with our representative, Mr. Hood, and he preferred just answering questions that we have at that time. And thank you, Mr. Holder, for also being with us today. Item D is Alva Board of Adjustments meeting on September 11th, 2017. Joe Don.
Well, it looks like they had two agenda items. One was at 1712 Oak asking for a variance in order to increase the lot coverage to have a carport and reduce the setback of the carport from the alley from 5 to 3 feet. And there was also an agenda item from 1014 Maple to increase the lot coverage to allow for a carport and reduce the setback in the alley from 5 to 0 feet. It does appear that both items were approved by the Board of Adjustment.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Dunn? Thank you, Joe Don. Item E is the Alva Airport Commission meeting on September 11, 2017. We had a pretty quick meeting. In addition to the approval of minutes and various reports, we had update on how the turf runway is coming along, and the dirt work has preliminarily been completed, and they were going to wait and see if some more settling occurred and take care of any of those issues that come up after that. And then we're looking at what we're going to seed it with to make sure we don't have any erosion in between now and when grass starts growing next year. The board approved installation of safety signs on the driveways to the airport, essentially, that say we post a speed limit, that vehicles need to remain, that there's not through traffic. So if you have airport business, you can come to the airport, and the signs indicate that. But just cruising around at the airport may not be the best idea, and that aircraft always have the right of way. And if you ever find yourself in a game of chicken with an airplane, I'd say don't count on them taking off and just get out of the way. So the rest of the discussion centered around lighting for the new T hangars, and the board did assign staff to go ahead and take action to get the lighting done at the new hangars. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have. All right, thank you. Item F is the Alva Cemetery meeting on September 13th, 2017. Joe Don, I'm going to let you give a report, but I'm going to start off by saying we did have a resignation from that board that I will be looking for, or I am looking for a replacement due to, personal commitments. Kenny Clark has asked to step down, and so we'll be looking for someone to take that seat on the airport board. So if any of you have suggestions, I would love to hear them. But I look forward to having an appointee to present at the next city council meeting for you. Joe Don, go ahead.
All right, well, other than the meeting was pretty routine, claims, reports, financials, but the one discussion item was adding the municipal court to the National Historic Registry. There are some rules that govern that and how cemeteries could be added. There was a guest, Ms. Rose Blanc was there, and evidently there's a Mr. Lisk that was, and a Mr. Terry Nix that they felt were people of notoriety that could cause the cemetery to be listed on the historic registry. One was Mr. Lisk, and he was evidently one of Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, buried in our cemetery. And Mr. Terry Nix, who was the first person to be placed on a heart-lung machine to be as notable to add the cemetery to the historic registry. There were some individuals present. There was a lot of discussion apparently after during citizen inquiries. That staff is going to be working on some of these issues, and I'm sure there will be a special meeting to address these issues in the near future. And that would be my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Joe Don. Does the council have any questions regarding the cemetery meeting? Item G is the Finance Committee meeting on September 18th, 2017. Mr. Benson, would you care to give us?
Okay, we went over our claims and approved those. And just to give you a rundown on some of the larger amount claims, In all the funds together, we paid $55,805 worth of debt services. We bought fuel out of the general fund and gas and oil for a total of $21,000. The tourism tax fund spent $59,000. The airport bought $14,600 worth of fuel to resell. We bought $62,000, almost $300 worth of asphalt to put on our streets. We spend pretty close to this much monthly, but we had $21,000 that went to red carpet, which is where we haul our trash to. And then we talked about capital revenue fund policy and looking into recommending to the council that we start one of those, and we're putting the numbers together and kind of an idea of what to present to the council, so we're working on that. We talked about a credit card policy so that some of our department heads could have a credit card, so if they go out of town, they could have a city credit card. And then we also asked Joe Don to look into the rates the cemetery, police, and ambulance charge for their services, or the police in their fines and tickets. And I believe that would be everything. If anybody has a question, I'd be glad to try to answer it.
Council, any questions for Mr. Benson? Thank you, Bryce. For the mayor's report, most of you remember that Joe Don and I were attending the Oklahoma Municipal League conferences, last week in Tulsa. I'm going to ask that, I got the opportunity to look at a resolution or an ordinance, or a resolution, I guess, from the city of Guyman. If you'll remember back whenever we had our storm damage and limbs down everywhere, we got behind on a lot of stuff. Guyman has a pretty creative solution to that, where they paid citizens by the ton to bring their limbs and refuse from the storm damage to the transfer station. Enabled them to keep their regular crews on their regular duties, and it allowed them to clean up their town a lot quicker than they'd previously been able to, without costing them very much money. They said they had about an acre of land at the transfer station, 6 foot high of limbs, that they paid out roughly $5,000 to get all that hauled to the transfer station. So, and they, like I said, the biggest part was they didn't have wear and tear on their equipment. They didn't have staff tied up with those projects. And so I'm going to be assigning to the Ordinance Review Committee as well as the Sanitation Committee to look at their resolution, see about adapting that to fit our needs. So be on the lookout for that. A lot of other good networking opportunities, and I don't want to steal Joe Don's thunder, because I think he'll want to at some point share about some of the stuff that their other places are doing with regard to dilapidated and overgrown properties. And then we were able to see some new products that are out there on the market for street repairs and things like that. So a lot of those things may be things that we can use, so we're going to be looking more in depth into some of the stuff that we became aware of over the week. So busy time in Alva. I want to express my appreciation to all the people, both city staff and otherwise, who made it possible for us to have another great year of the Cruise and Car Show. We also had the Goldbug Homecoming Parade. The street crews have done a great job with Flynn Street down here, and I look forward to being able to have the Northwestern Homecoming Parade walk across Flynn Street this year. It's really looking good, so great job to those guys. As always, it's lot more things going on here than most people realize, so do whatever you can to help people know that there is something going on in Alva. So, at that, I'll conclude my remarks unless anybody has any questions. Okay. City Business Managers Report. Joe Don.
Yep, what I'd first like to kind of hit on is the city finances. Right now, the city has received about $1.8 million. This is about about $70,000 more than what we received through the same time last year, but about $120,000 less than what we received the year before. As far as our expenditures are concerned, our expenditures appear as if they've increased significantly. We're at 3.35%, but the reason for the majority of this increase is because of encumbrances. An encumbrance is things that we have set back and we know we're going to spend, but we have not yet spent money for. At the auditor's encouragement, we have encumbered a full year. For the first month, we encumbered a full year's worth of utility bills and a full year's worth of debt service and everything. So that looks as if on our finances, when you're looking at them in a condensed form like this, as if we've spent more money than we've brought in. We haven't done that. We're actually, if we look at just actual expenditures, the general fund is about 9% more than what we would want to be at this point. The enterprise fund, the AUA fund, is about where we'd want to see it. And then the other funds, which would be the the airport, the cemetery, and the ARC, they're all between 5 and 12% more than what we would normally like to see. The street department shows right now that they're the street and alley fund. I shouldn't say the street department. The street and alley fund right now shows to be that we've expended 53 or 54% of the annual budget, which would be about right. So far this year, during the first 2 months, we've spent $114,000 on asphalt and street materials. That's just materials to repair streets. Doesn't have anything to do with labor, or doesn't have anything to do with maintenance of equipment or anything like that. It's just street repair materials. And then you add the $63,000 that we spent during the month of that we just spent. That's going to bring that up to about nearly $200,000. Our annual budget for street improvements, materials is $213,000. So we're moving along on those and getting those repairs made. May want to look at doing some budget adjustments later on during the year on that. We're just going to kind of watch it a little closer and see where we're at. As far as other items that we've got going on, one of the things that we talked about in the Finance Committee was the development of a multi-year capital replacement plan and how that's going to be funded. Staff's going to be working on a 5-year plan for replacement of equipment, infrastructure, and transferring of money to help fund those purchases. Hopefully we'll be looking at having this in place where we are funding purchases next year for fiscal year 2022, 2023. That would allow, if we start funding them this year incrementally, that would allow us to have the funds in place for that budget year to make those purchases. And we'll be looking at that process for every year thereafter. One of the other things that it'll allow us to do is, instead of like the last few budget years where we've been looking at just, what do we need next year to get by? What do we need next year to get by? We're actually planning our capital improvements. Not only do we know what we need next year, we'll know what we need 5 years, 6 years, 7 years from now. that will help us through that planning process, so that we're not caught later on down the road trying to figure out how we're gonna come up with $2.5 million to build a water storage tank, or $3 to $5 million, depending on what estimate we use to build a fire station. We'll have those funds in place to do that. As far as the street work is concerned, street crews did finish the concrete work they were doing at the new burn facility. They finished up the Flynn Street. They've got some work to do around both Lincoln, is that right? Longfellow and Washington, as far as some asphalt work they're going to do. There's Councilman Stelling and I talked about a couple of other areas that we're going to kind of try to go back and look at doing some additional work before this season ends. But that's where we're at as far as streets are concerned. We do have in the works to get completed within the next week or two the 13th and Flynn Street corner, to get that completed, along with some work on 7th Street from Barnes to Choctaw. We have been working on our water resources loan application. I met with Alan Brooks of Public Finance last week. Also met with finance advisors last week. They're going to be up next week to get us help get our application prepared for that. I expect to have that application and the resolutions before you for approval by the next council meeting. Our upper payment limit supplemental payment program, that's been an ongoing issue. The last report back from CMS to the Oklahoma Healthcare Authority declined their application. They are moved. We got over the past week, we got some information in that showed that they are, more management style. It was kind of management of the program and what they wanted to see. Right now, there's no timeline to resubmit, but it's going to have to be within the next 90 days. We've been working with our legal advisor on this project at McAfee and Taft. Right now, McAfee and Taft's recommendation is to not really spend a lot more money right now until we see where this new application goes. So we're going to be kind of in a hold and wait pattern on that. We did have our last week our EMS director, Marty Graham, turning his resignation. So we are fixing to start the process of finding another director for our EMS services department. The mayor did make some comments about our dilapidated buildings and cleanup ordinances. I did talk with several communities on the way they do it and what we need to look at. The one that sounds that it would be very beneficial is to really look at what Elk City is doing. They seem to be doing the things we'd like to be able to do. So I'm going to be in the next week or so. I'll be evaluating their ordinances, seeing how that can mesh with ours and what of ours would need to be changed, and forwarding that information on to the ordinance review committee. And that would be my report to the council. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Council members have any questions for Joe Don? Thank you, sir. Item 7 is the swearing in of firefighter Shane Ingleton. Chief, you want to say anything before we swear him in?
Just glad to have him and welcome him aboard. We'll put him on shift October the 6th, and he'll be going through some extensive training between now and then. to get him prepared for that, so. Congratulations.
Thank you. Will Shane please come forward?
Right here?
Right there.
All right.
Great. You'll raise your right hand. I, Shane English, and repeat after me.
All right.
I, Shane M. Engelken,
I, Shane M. Engelken,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
of America and the Constitution and the laws
of America and the Constitution and the laws
of the State of Oklahoma,
of the State of Oklahoma,
and I will faithfully discharge,
and I will faithfully discharge,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
or employment
or employment
during such time as I am employed
during such time as I am employed
as an Alva firefighter.
as an Alva firefighter.
All right, you are officially sworn in. Thank you for being a volunteer for so many years. Item 8 is discussion and action to approve or disapprove a change to the Alva Arena Authority indenture to add Woods County, Oklahoma as a co-beneficiary of the trust agreement. Essentially, and we have two, Mr. Hood and Mr. Holder are here to answer any questions from the council members if we have any. But essentially, the Arena Authority is looking to help us out by creating a change to this trust indenture that will allow the burden of any beneficial interest to be shared with the city of Alva and the county, Woods County. So I think y'all have had a chance to become familiar with what this would do. I do not see any, I don't have any reservations of approving this agreement, but we do have representatives from the Arena Authority if there is discussion to take place. Would there be any discussion? If there is none, I would entertain a motion. Would either of you like to speak on the matter?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the change to the Alva Arena Authority indenture to add Woods County, Oklahoma as a co-beneficiary of the trust agreement.
Second.
I have a motion by Bo Hannaford, second by Brandon Sherman, to approve a change to the Alva Arena Authority indenture to add Woods County, Oklahoma as a co-beneficiary of the trust agreement. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, gentlemen, for the work you're doing on the Arena Authority. We appreciate it, and we look forward to big things to come. So, thank you. Item 9 is discussion and action to accept improvements at the Alva Public Gun Range made by Bank Central Financial Services Corp. Totaling $6,092.85. The gun range, as you most of you are aware, and if you're not aware, has been a project over the last few years that has come about primarily with the use of donated funds. We've had some tourism tax dollars go to that, and this is yet another example of a donation to that project that is allowing us to increase the safety of our gun range, safety and security. The bank is presently installing, and Kurt, you jump in here if I mess this up, but presently installing cameras and surveillance systems as well as a security access system that will allow us to let good people in and keep bad people out. It is, when you're dealing with firearms, safety is always of the utmost importance, and so I appreciate all the bank's work and this contribution, and Kirk, I'd let you tag on to that, anything you'd like.
Well, I asked Kyle if he would be present this evening from Bank Central so that we could express our appreciation directly toward him, and we just greatly appreciate the contributions that the community has made to make the gun range successful. It is temporarily closed, but once the work that's being done now has taken place, it'll be opened back up. And what a person will need to do to utilize the range is take a small course that will be specific instruction on the range use, and then pay a small fee that will help displace the cost of the training and pay for the fob that gets them in, and then that fob will log them in and log them out when they utilize the range. The Share Trust has also been helpful in that through the years, along with the tourism tax and then many other donations from private entities and the public as well. So just wanted to direct that appreciation directly toward Kyle. And Kyle, would you like to make any remarks in that regard?
The main reason I came is I just wanted to compliment the council, wanted to compliment Kirk on having the vision to do that. It's going to be a real asset for all of law enforcement, not just in Woods County, but from surrounding areas too. And we were just pleased to be able to be a part of it. And I appreciate the discretionary effort that we see all the time from city people and the things and the extra work that they go to make things real. So thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kirk. As with any contributions to the city, the council must accept the contribution, so that's what this agenda item is here for. If there are no questions.
Will there be, is it like monthly trainings or opportunities, or just when people, I mean, how's that going to work? Because there'll be some questions.
We're more interested in a one-time training so that they will know specifics about what not to do while they're at the range. And then I think as we basically enroll them or get the information from them that we need to give them the fob, we'll get some contact information like an email address or some way of contacting them. If there is updated information that they need, we can get it to them.
Is that going to be scheduled, or is that going to be like you go and apply and then every month on the 15th we have a safety meeting or something like that?
There'll be quite a few opportunities to get that training at the VOTEC school, and we may even make a PowerPoint presentation, something that they can sit down and watch and then basically sign that they are aware of the rules and have seen the rules and are aware of them.
Kurt, as an example, if I'm gone through the training and I'm able to go out there and use the gun range, and I have a friend that comes to town, am I able to take them with me, or do they have to go through the training to have something?
You would be responsible for that individual, make sure that they know what they're supposed to do, and we don't have an issue with that. It's just people that are not willing to read the posted rules that are out there and follow them. We had to take this additional step to make sure that they follow, and then we'll also have accountability because there's going to be cameras in place. They have worked. The bank records that, and I think it's reported for up to 30 days. And then if there's an incident that we need to review, one time there was an accidental discharge. We didn't realize it was an accidental discharge, but we were able to investigate that, find the person, visit with them, and learn that it was an accidental instead of an intentional discharge. And this will just give us a little better handle on that, because not only will the camera system be functioning, but the fob will log people in and out, so it would put an incident in a time frame that we could look at and see who's there at that time, if something big. But yes, if you have friends that you want to take to the range, that'll be part of the training, is that it'll just be your responsibility to make sure that they know what the rules are. And most of the instances we had that we wanted to correct were not something that you would have a problem with if someone was with you and you were responsible for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept this donation from Bank Central.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation to the gun range in the amount of $6,092.85 from Bank Central Financial.
Second.
Have a motion from Bryce Benson, second from Danny Winters, to accept improvements at Alva Public Gun Range made by Bank Central Financial Services Corp. totaling $6,092.85. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Benson,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Thank you, and thanks again, Kyle, for the contribution, Chief, all the work you've been doing out there, and the rest of the community that's been supportive of what we've been doing at the gun range. Item 10 is discussion and action to appoint Lynn Hatfield, City of Alva Payroll Deputy Clerk, as the authorized agent for the OMRF retirement plan. Joe Don?
Well, with the vacancy in the payroll clerk position, we need to appoint another person as the authorized agent. Ms. Hatfield is operating in the payroll position. She has a lot of payroll experience. We were happy to be able to hire her. She will act as the employer for anything on the plan to provide a customer service to our citizens. She'll be able to transfer information such as contribution and payroll to the OMRF. It'll allow, she will provide assistance to employees with forms and applications, and she'll also assist employees with any of the city's plan matters. She's the local person that the employee will be able to go to if they've got any questions or would like to coordinate any other plan activities. This is on the agenda because our plan document with OMRF requires that the governing body make this appointment. There won't be any financial impact. It'll be operating as we have always operated, and it'll allow for Ms. Hatfield to transfer that information to OMRF and to be able to be the local point of contact for our employees to have questions clarified.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Dunham? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll motion to appoint Lynn Hatfield as the authorized agent for the OMRF retirement plan.
Second.
Have a motion by Daniel Winters, a second by Brandon Sherman, to appoint Lynn Hatfield, City of Alva Payroll Deputy Clerk, as the authorized agent for the OMRF retirement plan. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Item 11 is discussion and action on the approval of the revised City Council/Board handbook as a best practice policy. Last year, or was it 2 years ago, we approved through the Personnel Committee the handbook that we use to kind of guide us in how we should act as elected officials, both from what our legal requirements are to our position, as well as what are considered to be the best ways of conducting business in an elected body such as this. presently, and I'll let Joe Don speak to this more, but our liability insurance provider is offering grants for its members who regularly and routinely familiarize and refamiliarize themselves with such best practices. And so that's what we have in front of us. I'm going to let either member of the Personnel Committee or Joe Don speak further about the revisions to the handbook that were made, and answer any questions from council.
Yeah, you can go ahead and start.
Okay. What I'll start off with is to let you know I've given you a PowerPoint presentation as a handout. The PowerPoint presentation is also on your tablet in the Dropbox in the same council meeting as you found the agenda items. Basically, as a concept, the handbook was presented to the Personnel Committee in the fiscal year 14-15. It was developed to provide some education for newly elected council members by providing them with specifics concerning the city of Alva and an idea of their role. We have been talking about here recently the OMAG recognition program, which will pay us $6,000 annually if we review this, have council meeting members go through some additional training, which is either online, in-house, or you can attend the OML training. This year, all of the OML training went to qualified as training for this program. It also requires that we review the handbook as a best practice. The City Council first adopted this handbook on November 2nd, 2015, and this is the first revision to that document. If you'll look at it, some of the table of contents have changed just in wording. What we have done is we've gone back and taken our original document, compared it to the OMAG revised document or recommended document, and made them kind of match one another. None of the information that was originally presented has been omitted. It may just be called something a little different. The first section is the introduction section, and this is really unchanged from the previous document. The section contains a letter from myself, a brief history of Alva, and a current description of the demographics for Alva. Right now, the demographics that we're looking at is dated information. I think it's from our original handbook, and it's 2015 information. We are looking to get an updated set of that demographics for us to hand out to you so you can update your book. That should be here in the next few weeks. The next section describes the aldermanic form of government and the role of the elected officials in that form of government. We've gone through and talked about, it goes through and talks about the specific law for the aldermanic form of government and what a councilman and the mayor's role is in the aldermanic form of government. The mayor actually serves as the CEO. He's responsible for a lot of the issues that, if you're strictly automatic, that would that operate in the city. The city of Alva is basically a automatic form of government with a weak mayor. Meaning that we have, by ordinance, delegated a lot of those functions for day-to-day operations to the city business manager. The city council is similar to the state legislature in that the city council passes laws and regulations that establish policies for the city. Generally, this is done through the approval of ordinances and resolutions. That's what dictates to the operations of the city what we need to be working on. The city of Alva currently has 4 public trusts: the Alva Utility Authority, the Alva Economic Development Authority, and then we are a beneficiary of the Alva Hospital Authority and the Alva Arena Authority that we're, I guess now, co-beneficiaries in that with Woods County. We'll talk about what being a beneficiary of those authorities actually mean here in a few minutes. And then the city of Alva also has, we've got our statutory boards, and then we've got our city-created boards. Statutory boards are the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustments. And then the city has created 5 other boards: the Alva Airport Commission, the Alva Recreation Complex Board, the Cemetery Board, the Library Board, and the Tourism Tax Committee. All of the city-created boards are required to comply with the Open Meetings Act, the same as what the statutory boards are required to do. Same as City Council is required to do. The city also created about 7 now different committees that are made up of council members, but not enough to require a quorum. These do not have to follow the Open Meetings Act, and generally they help the city business manager operate the city in the way that the council would like for it to be operated on. This is the Personnel Committee, the Finance Committee, the Parks and Building Committee, the Public Safety Committee, Sanitation Committee, Street and Alley Committee, Water and Sewer Committee, and then the last one that was added is the Ordinance Committee. The next section that we have is the Open Meetings and the Open Meeting Act. This section gives an overview of the Open Meeting Act, serves as a reference to what is taught in the mandatory newly elected officials training, and it gives an overview of the purpose of different sections of the agenda. It describes the purpose of the executive session and how they are to be used. It also outlines laws requiring attendance to meetings and how city members are removed if they exceed the absentee limit. The next section is conflict of interest, ethics, and conduct. This section describes how a conflict of interest occurs. The 4 categories a conflict of interest usually falls under. It also describes the state statutes that regulate city and board members' transactions with the city. In this section, it also describes how the Public Competitive Bidding Act applies to conflict of interest and lists some of the criminal statutes which may apply to council members in certain circumstances. The ethics section of this, the ethics part of this section describes basically the 3 R's of government: roles, responsibility, and respect. This section outlines the roles and responsibility for each elected position. It also gives the policies and protocols for different situations and gives a brief description of conduct for council members. It also gives a best practice for council conduct with other public meetings and in private meetings. It will also give a recommendation on how council should interact with city staff and what kind of access city council or council members would have toward the use of any public facility and or equipment. The public trust and authorities. This section basically outlines why a public trust or authority or utility authority was developed. It describes what the purpose was and their development and why it's moving forward, why it's a separate entity. The city of Alva is, like I said, the beneficiary of 2 different authorities, the Alva Hospital Authority and the Alva Arena Authority. Being a beneficiary of these trusts doesn't mean that the city of Alva is required to operate the facility if the trust authority should not be able to continue operations. Any indebtedness that the trust authority has, unless it is tied to a vote of the people, such as the hospital sales tax, does not constitute an indebtedness to the city. Should either one of the authorities not be able to operate, does not mean that the city has to turn around and try to operate those authorities. The training and building stability section outlines the mandatory newly elected officials training that every councilman has to attend during their first year of their election. But then it also describes benefits of building a stable government and what areas of stabilization are measured. What I've also handed you out is the stability test. Now, for those of the council that were here back in November 2015, the handout you were given for this same test basically just said rank from 1 to 10, financial stability, governing body stability, meetings, employees. But it didn't give a lot of explanation as to what it means to have financial stability, for example. Now, OMAG has updated their stability test to allow for a little bit of definition in what does financial stability mean. What would a 10 represent? The same with governing body stability, meetings, employees, public image, and whatnot. There are 10 different areas, the same 10 areas that we measured originally. The department heads the city council did rank the city back in 2015 and I would like for you to rank the city again from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. If you would take that time and do that now or get it back to me as soon as possible, I would appreciate it. Then I'll let you know how you say we rank as compared to 2015. And are we doing things better or are we doing things worse? But and I'll also pass this out to employees and department heads the same as we did last time to get their input and see how we did comparatively and have that report at the next council meeting. This section describes the benefits of having a stable government and how we're going to measure that stability. It also discusses the city's public image and the benefits and the pitfalls of social media. I know a lot of times we'd like to be able to say social media isn't important. But I think that we may not like it. I may not personally like social media, but it is a sign, it is around to stay. I think we're going to have to start using it to our advantage to hopefully build our brand and to be able to do some of the things, to provide information to the citizens. I think we're doing better than we were doing on that a year ago, but I don't think we're at where we need to be at either. There's some areas that we can improve on, as always, and we're working toward those improvements. Is it going to be perfect every time? Probably not, but we need to be able to strive for that perfection. This handbook also has a section for financial and the financial and annual budget section. And this basically what this does is that it gives an outline of the way the city government operates financially and the way we prepare and process budgets. Describes the budget laws and the purchasing process that we're under. It also provides a adopted It also gives you the annual adopted budget. Now, the budget in this book is the 2017 annual budget. The next section goes into the appendixes, which is the Oklahoma Title 11 for cities and towns, which is what defines automatic form of government. Chapter 2, Article 3 of the City Code, which authorizes the city business manager position and gives the responsibilities for that position. It outlines the tort claims process. Some of the things that we will have for you shortly. One of them is a new document that's on the podium, which is a meeting sign-in sheet. The way this sign-in sheet would work is that when you come to a meeting, you sign in, give all citizens sign in, give the topic they would like to talk on. It would be then picked up by the mayor, and then those people would be called on to talk on that subject matter in the 2 minutes that they're given. It also has a disclosure of interest form. This is a form that we have never had before, and basically what it would say is that you are operating as a councilman or operating a business that. And what that business's name would be, so that we would know whether or not we could do business with you as a city council, as a city. There are some businesses, some instances when you get elected as a city official, we're no longer able to do business with you if you own a substantial part of that business. There is a city council confidentiality agreement for executive session recommended. Basically, at every executive session, the city council and the members that are, and any public that is in that meeting would be, in that part of the meeting, would be asked to sign, stating that they realize that that is confidential information and that information won't be repeated outside the council chambers or outside the executive session. The appendix also gives there's a copy of both the AUA and the AEDA trust indenture and leases, and that is the 200-plus page document you've got in front of you. This document is also a part of out there as a part of the tablet, so you can have it electronically if you so wish. Part of the training or the presentation of this book, we do want to go over we provide you with a copy with our declaration page for our municipal liability protection plan, and what some of the definitions are of that declaration page. Please review that to see where what our responsibilities are and what our coverage is. As far as liability, we have a $25,000 property damage loss per occurrence, $125,000 as a maximum expenditure with $1 million aggregate. Medical claims paid for volunteers not to exceed $10,000, $2 million annual aggregate, and a $10,000 annual deductible. For some areas, we do cover vehicles and things like that have different deductibles. Mostly they're at about $1,000. But that's there for your review for for the fiscal year that we are in. The planned date for that is September 1 of 17 to September 1 of 18. And that pretty much is the summary of the council handbook, where the differences are from the previous years. in a review of it, and would constitute the annual training that we would need to have over this handbook. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So essentially, any changes that are present is either additional information which was felt would be helpful for understanding our roles, or it was really just technical changes in language.
Right.
There haven't been any revisions that would be considered to change direction or change philosophy, or change resolution or statute or otherwise. Those have remained consistent from the original 2015 document. I would.
I think the one thing that we have done that was, if I remember correctly, was recommended by the council, and quite honestly, we haven't done a very good job of it to get it out to all of our boards and commissions. We've gotten the handbooks prepared for the airport and the ARC boards. There has been one presentation to each board of that handbook. In progress would be the cemetery board and the tourism board, and in both of our statutory boards, the planning commission and the board of adjustment. Library is under development.
John, we could easily put this online as well for access
Yes.
and for public knowledge.
Yes. Could very easily be put out there, and I would, if we put it out, which I don't have a problem with doing it, it'll probably be on the city council page as a link.
Council, have any other questions or further discussion on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the handbook.
I'll motion to approve the revised city council board handbook as a best practice policy.
Second.
A motion by Daniel Lynn, second by Bill Hannaford, to approve the revised city council board handbook as a best practice policy. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Joe, how quickly would you want this back?
As soon as possible. And if you want to just put an email out to me and just say 1, 5, 2, 6, whatever.
Is it overall, or is it each?
Well, it would be what you would be, like for financial stability, based on that information, how would you rank the city overall?
You don't have to do it for A, B, and C.
Right,
Okay.
right,
Looking for one ranking per.
right. We're looking for one ranking per section.
Okay.
I want to say thank you to the staff that I'm sure anytime you see a binder full of that much information,
Oh, yeah.
there was a little bit of labor involved.
Just a little.
Just a little. Thank you.
Documentation such as this, the budget handbook, or the council agenda items would not be possible had it not been for the ladies sitting behind us.
So thank you. Your efforts are truly appreciated and noticed. And Joe, on you as well. I know you spent a lot of time on that, and appreciate your work on that. The next agenda item is 12 remarks. Item 12, remarks and inquiries by citizens. As a reminder, public comments are limited to 2 minutes per speaker, and we ask that the speaker please approach the podium and identify himself or herself. Chief.
I just would like to take this moment to express my appreciation to the street department and the water department for the work that they've done at our fire department training field, and you all as management for allowing them to do that work out there. They did it in a timely fashion. They weren't away from other projects very long, but what that does the money that's being spent out there is grant funds, and it has allowed our grant funds to go further. So I really appreciate that, and those guys for doing that work.
Thank you, Chief Tree. Are there any other comments or questions from citizens? There being none, item 13 is remarks and inquiries by council members.
I'd like to echo your thoughts, Mayor, on the city street department, on the job they're doing on our streets, and the rest of the departments on how they help with the race club and putting on the car show this weekend. I thought there was an extremely lot of people in town, and that's got to help with our businesses and our tax dollars, and I think that's just a great deal that it's being put on here in Alva. They advertise it as the biggest free car show in Oklahoma, and I think it's a whole lot bigger, not just a little bit. So I want to thank them for that.
I think they were, if I don't know the number that I'm saying is correct, but I heard there was roughly 350 to 400 entries.
I heard over 500.
So
I think I heard this morning they hit over their 550 mark this year.
Okay,
I'm not
and
sure
that's
that-
numbers maybe I heard old numbers, but
According to, I think it was a Facebook post or something like that I saw that on. They said that it's like 10 times the size of any other one.
it's the largest one they've had.
What's like 10 times the size of even the closest, like Woodward's or Enid's, they can't even get 50 cars to show up, and we get over 500.
That's good. That's great for the community.
Kelly, back to the streets. I do have a funny to turn in on that. The streets are wonderful, but I did have two little ladies at different times come up and ask me, are they going to put stripes down the side, down the middle? I don't know where to drive. I said, I promise you.
Yeah, Councilman, we will be putting the stripes back down, and we will be striping
Those ladies were so
we
concerned.
will be striping the parking spaces also back. But we're gonna wait till it's a more opportune time.
It's been amazing how people have a hard time parking when there's no parking
When there's
strip.
no
The asphalt plant is open for probably a limited number of days from this point
Yeah.
forward, so we're trying to just take advantage of every bit of that we can, and then get to the other projects once the asphalt plant is closed. So concrete can cure anytime, and potholes can be fixed about any time, but the laying of asphalt can only occur when the asphalt plant is open, so that's what we're doing. All right. If there are not any other remarks from the council members, we'll go ahead and close the city council meeting and open the Alva Utility Authority meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Winters,
Here.
Benson,
Here.
Eckhart.
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hamilton. Here. Hannaford,
Here.
Stelling,
Here.
Wallace.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on a consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AUA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 21st, 2017. And item B, approval of claims in the amount of $160,000.64 and payroll expenses of $66,031.71. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Brandon Sherman, second by Mary Hamilton to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
All right, we'll adjourn the Alva Utility Authority meeting and open the Alva Economic Development Authority meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Winters,
Here.
Benson,
Here.
Eckhart.
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Hannaford,
Here.
Stelling,
Here.
Wallace.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AEDA meetings will be approved by one vote of the board. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 21st, 2017. And item B is approval of claims in the amount of $30,951.33 and payroll expenses of $13,358.32. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
One motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Daniel Winters, a second by Brandon Sherman to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Thank you all for being here this evening, all of the public that came this evening. We appreciate it. And everybody have a wonderful rest of your week until we meet again.
Before you guys leave, I need you to sign a statement acknowledging that you received your handbook.